In this training, we will be discussing how you might present Voyant in a client meeting. The first thing that I might do is start the client meeting by reviewing the current data I have in the plan and just adjusting any numbers that might need to be adjusted and verifying all of that data. I do find that sometimes in the initial conversation that sometimes your dashboard chart, cash flow chart can be a little bit distracting when you want to get first to this piece. What you can do is go to your silhouette in the top right corner, select preferences, and you can turn off the dashboard chart. You might also turn off your inline help just so that those hyperlinks aren't active and potentially getting clicked and distracting from the conversation. We'll start by doing this, and then you can now see that the cash flow chart is no longer visible on the chart, and you can click your down arrow and open up the data in the chart and review all of the goals and account balances, debt on the mortgage, etc. Just making sure that no changes need to be made. The next thing that you would want to do is go over to your timeline section. In the timeline section, this is a great place to have those goal-based conversations. What are we planning for? Are we currently on track with our goals? Do we need to add any goals into the plan? And you can have your conversation generally about how you are going to help them plan to achieve these goals. If you need to make any changes on the fly, you can click here on your goals and make adjustments to the amounts or the time. You can move these icons up and down your chart. You can adjust the mortality events. You can add in new goals and events by clicking your plus button here. If you'd like to make your stages a little bit more differentiated, you can click on your stage button here, enter in a new stage, maybe early retirement years, click a color and say between ages 65 and 75. We're going to differentiate that and make those the early retirement years. And click done. You can also deselect different people in the timeline. So if you want to discuss Mary's goals specifically first, you can deselect Andrew and then bring him back in, and vice versa. Have those conversations separately or together. Once you've updated your timeline, you can go to the Let's See screen. We're going to be working left to right in this conversation, and go to Single Chart. Take a look at our cash flow, and this is the lifeblood of the plan. It shows all the inflows coming into the plan over the course of the years. We're looking at our total need, which includes their basic expenses, taxes, and any contributions or goals that they have in the plan. And you can look at any surplus income in various years where the income is greater than the total need. You can also turn on your details, and this gives you a little bit more information about how the expenses are being met over the years. You can see in the early years, it is primarily being met by employment income, and then when they move into retirement, you can see how the software is fulfilling those expenses. You can also hide all and start by just looking at the expense profile in the chart, and then slowly build everything back in from employment to your CPP, OAS, and then really get into how your planning is going to help them meet the expenses that are left over in the plan after those things. So you can take a look at the planning from the non-reg accounts, the retirement savings, and tax-free savings. This gives you an opportunity to really demonstrate how your planning is helping them meet their goals in the retirement years and before. You can also use your little right-hand arrow here to navigate over to different charts if you want to look at their assets over time and how they are growing and de-accumulating in their retirement years. You can also have a really quick picture of what would be left in their plan at the final year. You can look at just the expenses chart, their debts, so this shows this mortgage being paid down over time, looking like it's scheduled to be paid off in the year 2035, net worth, and also your taxes expectations. So you can look in the final year of the plan by hovering and you can see here what the cumulative tax expectation is for the plan. Depending on your client's needs, the legacy screen might also be important to them. This is going to show what is going to be passed from one spouse to the next at their planned mortality events, so you can see exactly what Mary is expected to inherit after Andrew passes. You can also look at a couple of different scenarios. If Andrew dies today, if Mary dies today, have that conversation about whether or not there would be enough money for the other person. Going back to our Let's See chart and cash flow, we can see that they are expecting a little bit of shortfall in that final year of the plan. Because of this, it might be helpful to run a couple of insights with them while they're in your office. You can take a look at some different strategies for reducing that shortfall that last year in retirement, whether it's through investing in a more aggressive portfolio using the investment returns insight. You can have a conversation about whether or not this is a realistic rate of return year on year. You can also have a discussion about perhaps reducing their spending in retirement slightly. Having a conversation about whether or not they feel that this is a realistic budget for their retirement. One thing I do want to point out is that the spending capacity in retirement is a present value. If you'd like to know what the future value is, you can always turn on your year view and scroll over to that first year of retirement, which you can see by clicking on the little tab here. Go to your expenses section and it'll give you your spending analysis expense in the future value. You might also want to run a couple of what if scenarios before they come into your office. You would have done that here. You can create your own what if scenarios, or you can use one of these guided plan creations. If you already have them in the plan, they are accessible by clicking on your base plan and looking at the different options. So we can look at Mary retiring at 60, going to our Let's See screen again, and seeing what Mary retiring at 60 instead of 65, so them both retiring in the same year, since there is an age difference, how that would affect the plan. You can also use your Let's See section to do a comparison, looking at the base plan versus this plan of Mary retiring at 60. And you could also have a recommendation plan ready to go to compare with some of those recommendations from the insights that you discussed, increasing the investment returns and reducing some of the spending. And you can compare the plans and show how you might help them achieve retiring at 60 for Mary. To review, we would start on the dashboard and review all of the information in the plan, make sure we don't need to make any major adjustments. We would then go to the timeline, working our way from left to right across your screen, have conversations about their goals, what we're planning for, do we need to adjust any of these goals, do we need to add any of these events or goals that we should be planning for in the future. Then going over to your Let's See screen, single chart, reviewing cash flow, assets, anything that's applicable to them. Going over to their legacy screen if this is a concern for them, and discussing whether or not they would have enough money in each scenario, running a couple of insights to problem solve. Maybe they're concerned about stress testing their plan. How would their plan look if there was a major market crash? How much could they afford to lose? And then reviewing any of the what if scenarios that you have ready to go in the plan, and you can navigate between your different base plan and what if scenarios by clicking here in the top right. I hope that this was helpful. Feel free to reach out to us at support@planwithvoyant.com if you have any questions. You can always click the name of your client here in the top right and click Request Support. Send me a message here and share client access. I'd be happy to take a look at your client's case and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for listening.